what do you do when you're 6 films into the series? Because franchise fatigue is real. You want to do little innovations, you don't want people getting bored, but you also don't want to move too far from the thing that people love in the series, the thing that people expect. If you're Friday the 13th, when you did your part 6, you leaned a little bit more on the meta humour. You knew that people weren't taking it as seriously and they could enjoy a little fourth wall breaking joke. Or another thing you could do is a relocation, which Friday the 13th also did, infamously with part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Obviously, Scream 6, also relocating to the big city, made a very direct reference to it very early on. Now, when you do this, when you do these innovations, you don't really want them to be just a superficial change. You don't want them to not deliver on the promise. And that is something that Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, absolutely did. You were promised Jason Taking Manhattan. You were shown this poster. And what you actually got was Jason on a boat and then in some sewers. There was really only this tiny bit in Manhattan with this weird guy. That's probably about the only thing you remember from it. It's about the most Manhattan you got. Now, Scream 6 makes this reference, I think, for one thing, because, hey, we also went to the city. But it really could make that reference for another reason, that it completely bailed on the promise of innovation. The opening of Scream 6 is a bait and switch tease, and it really is a sour start to the film. So I'm not going to go in depth in the plot. I'm going to give you the very basics. I assume a certain familiarity because I'm going to spoil the whole film, and I'm probably going to spoil the whole series, okay? So I hope you have awareness. I hope you're not expecting a spoiler-free review at this point. That would be foolishness. The opening of Scream 6 is your classic phone call, your Ghostface call. Now, that already is a little bit of a problem. You're 6 films into your franchise. We have seen this many a time. It was already kind of dated enough with people's changing preferences for modes of communication that Scream 4 in 2011 referenced how really the killer should be using social media, and Scream 5 in 2022 had Tara be a bit more modern by also messaging Amber while she took the Ghostface call. These were good changes, and I'm not going to delve too deep into why those openers used the call. I'm just going to focus on Scream 6. Scream 6, by doing this call, felt like it was going through the motions a bit, and additionally, because it still needed to take Samara Weaving's character out of the restaurant and into a back alley so the usual stabbing could happen, it kind of felt a bit rote, a bit by the numbers. I was not a huge fan of it. I kind of felt we were going through the motions at this point. Sure enough, she gets into the alley. It's a little unbelievable. It's a little stretched. Like the killer points out, she is a lecturer in slasher films. He mocks her for going into the alley, even though she really should know not to. And obviously, she gets a stabbing. It's all what we expect. And I thought, okay, this is kind of average. It's a little mid. But hey, it's a Scream film. This is going to happen. After Ghostface drops a lame joke, I'm expecting the cutaway, and it doesn't happen. You know from the editing, you're expecting a cutaway at this point. You're expecting to go into the title sequence. And when it doesn't, suddenly it got a little exciting. You're holding on Ghostface for far much longer than you should, and you start to think, okay, something new is going to happen. And it does. Ghostface takes off the mask in the pre-title sequence. And then suddenly, this was brilliant. This was exciting. Suddenly, the idea was you're going to see the franchise from a whole new angle, knowing Ghostface from the start and having a whole Scream film absolutely laden with dramatic irony. This was intriguing. This is innovation. This is really what Scream is about, is innovating on a fairly, tired genre and doing something new and invigorating with it. This reveal got me hooked. And we follow this new Ghostface back. His name is Jason, fittingly enough. And we see him go back to his flat. We see him pass Tara, This is that promise of dramatic irony, this fairly otherwise unremarkable meeting with Tara, knowing that this is Ghostface, knowing that he has just done his first kill, laid in this scene with so much more excitement. It was suddenly a great opening. He gets back to the flat, and you're kind of hoping there's going to be that title sequence, right? We get the title sequence now, but as with the first killing, the decision not to move away kind of told us that actually something else was going to happen, and then this Ghostface and his fridge-based boyfriend are gone, and we're kind of back on the usual. This was a sudden letdown. After the promise of something new and exciting, we're back doing the usual formula. In the commentary of the film, the writers Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt, who also wrote Scream 5, said that they'd independently arrived at the idea that they wanted to reveal Ghostface in the first 10 minutes.
That was one of the first things we talked about.
I think so, right? Yeah.
And this was when it was early days. We hadn't mapped out the whole movie yet, but we were just kind of doing our blue sky, like, what could we do in this movie that's different? What would make this exciting and fun for us? And the first meeting we had, I think, story-wise, was over a Zoom. And I'm pretty sure I started, and I was like, I just had this crazy idea that we start with like a traditional Scream kill, albeit in New York City, so it's got kind of a fresh flavor. And then we do the throw to credits slash, but we don't go to credits.
Yeah.
And we hold on Ghostface, and then he removes his mask, and then we follow him. And you had this look on your face, and I was like, oh, he hates it. I'm stupid. This is all...
That's my resting face.
His resting, yeah. So then he holds up a notepad, and written on it is, Ghostface takes off mask within first 10 minutes. And I was like, oh my God, we were really in sync on this.
I think we share a Scream brand. And I also, I love the idea of opening in an incredibly crowded place and having the audience go, well, how...
Yeah.
We know she's probably dead meat, but how is she going to be dead meat in a restaurant with 100 people in it?
Yeah, reading the opening, we were just floored from the first line because, well, Hasta El Fuego, the name of the restaurant, is also the name of our our text chain
and I thought, okay, that's cool, but you did that reveal and then you did nothing else with it. So what was the point of revealing who Ghostface is and then going back to an unknown Ghostface? It is a bait and switch. It is promising innovation and then backtracking on it. It is, I'm afraid, a bit of a foreshadowing of what's going to be a major problem of Scream 6, which is cowardice. They're going to back out of anything challenging, they're going to back out of any risk-taking, and they're going to back out of innovation that you would expect them to deliver. This is a foreshadowing of the cowardice that will plague Scream 6 that I really think is one of the two central problems that I'm going to cover when I wrap this up. Scream 6 is going to repeatedly flirt with innovation, it's going to flirt with risk, and then it's going to fall back on something safe and on lazily repeating superficial elements of past Scream films, like it is doing a sort of tick box exercise. And worse, they don't even realise what a self-abnegating cock-up this was when they included this line.
We have to finish the movie.
Who gives a about movies? Who gives a about movies?
This line really is Scream 6's David Carradine and Michael Hutchins death moment. You know, it probably felt really good while they were doing it, but it did not lead to anything good. In fact, it leads to a huge plot hole, an absolute fridge logic nuke that gets dropped on the film when you understand who the killers are. And that is going to be the sort of meatiest problem that we discuss here. You're going to be even more bitter when you are promised something cool and interesting and innovative, when you see who the killers in Scream 6 actually are. It makes it so much worse. This bait and switch opening is one of the first problems, but it is far from the worst in Scream 6. We're going to go into that in the next section. The killers are an absolute joke.
Jesus Christ, you don't know the rules?